Now at 6 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, the FAA releases new information on a fatal helicopter crash in Calhoun County. Back in federal court in Victoria, more arguments over a Biden administration migrant parole program. And Victoria police investigating a possible assault case from earlier this week.
I'm going to talk heat, I'm going to talk golf and tropics weather, I'm going to talk football weather, and Gino's going to talk football.
Thanks, Howie. And we are just over an hour until kickoff from the Texas high school football season. We have previews in sports.
You're watching 25 News now at 6. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Don Brubaker. Karina Garcia is off tonight. We have an update from the FAA on a fatal helicopter crash near Port O'Connor on March 6th. The pilot of the helicopter, Dr. Glenn Heady, and a passenger, 50-year-old Arcelia Cisneros, died when they crashed. The helicopter, a Robinson R-44-2, was traveling from Port O'Connor to the Calhoun County Port Lavaca Airport. The FAA reports today the weather was below visual flight rules minimums. Fog was blowing and no known flight plan was filed. The FAA says at one point the pilot made a quick descent to about 50 feet while turning back to the right, where it eventually hit the ground. The helicopter was destroyed. In Victoria, the arguments continued Friday between the state of Texas and social justice immigration groups and the federal government over a parole program allowing the temporary stay of migrants in the U.S. In final arguments from the defense, it was suggested that the states call for an injunction against just the Latin American countries involved in the program and not Ukrainian non-citizens as being racist. District Judge Drew Tipton disagreed that the state's choice to exclude Ukraine is racist. After the trial ended in the afternoon, a post-trial briefing scheduled for September. A written decision by Judge Tipton is expected to be made in October. Both sides in the lawsuit over buoys Texas put in the Rio Grande to block migrants from crossing the southern border had until this afternoon to submit written closing arguments to a federal judge. Texas officials began installing the barrier on the Rio Grande in July. The Department of Justice sued after the barriers were put in place, saying Governor Greg Abbott violated federal law and that it raises humanitarian, diplomatic, and environmental concerns. Victoria police investigating a possible assault this week. Victoria police officers responded to a residence in the 900 block of Lawndale Avenue. Officers talked with a woman there who was involved in a disturbance. Officers found that the woman had been assaulted by another family member. The offender left the home before officers arrived. No arrest or citation were issued. DeWitt County Sheriff's deputies earlier this week arrested 41-year-old Felix Ruben Paz Marquez of Cuero. He is facing an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon charge out of Bexar County. His bail set at $75,000. 6 years ago today, Hurricane Harvey hit the Texas Gulf Coast. Harvey first hit Rockport late on August 25th, 2017. The next morning, Hurricane Harvey hit Victoria. By then, it had been downgraded to a Category 3 hurricane, but it still battered Victoria with winds up to 115 miles an hour. Power outages reported all over the city, along with a City of Victoria boil water notice for several days. Major flooding also occurred along the Guadalupe River, with the river cresting in Victoria at around 31 feet. Harvey is the second costliest hurricane in U.S. history. Victoria County Judge Ben Zeller told us the county has worked hard to improve facilities and road and drainage projects. Due to continued low wind power generation and high demand, operating reserves for ERCOT expected to be low. As a result, ERCOT asking Texans to conserve electricity use, if safe to do so, until 9 o'clock tonight. Yesterday, ERCOT avoided emergency operations due to the conservation efforts by Texas residents and businesses. ERCOT reports it is not experiencing emergency conditions at this time. The National Weather Service issues an excessive heat warning for one area county, Lavaca County, under an excessive heat warning until 9 o'clock tonight. The National Weather Service says heat index values up to 113 degrees are expected. Now let's take a first look at your forecast. In for First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Mac Pettis. Here is meteorologist Howie Gordon. And Howie, people are ready for high school football. and ready for a break from the heat, too.
I mean, is it too hot? You've been in Texas all your life, Don. It's a hot one for the first day of high school football. I'll talk about that in my full forecast. But for now, we hit 104. Heat indices were at 111, 112 just a little bit ago. Still soaring in the 105, 108 range. So very much on the hot side. We'll get cooler as we get closer to nightfall. Look at this. Could the wind be a part of the kicking game with gusts up to 30 miles per hour? We'll be in the 80s this evening overnight, dropping down to 75. We're going to talk Friday night football weather. We're going to talk a potential cool down, and we're going to talk about what's brewing out there in the Gulf and the tropics coming up pretty soon, Don.
Supply lines are bursting in El Campo about twice per day as summer heat causes ground ships, but so far there's still plenty running through the pipes. The El Campo Leader News reports the only strain right now officials say is on the crews who struggle each day to patch the lines in the heat. Here's your viewer poll this evening. Scan that QR code on your screen to vote now. Here's the question. Will the heat keep you from going to a high school football game tonight? Yes or no? Let's look at those numbers. 60% of the people saying yes, it will keep them indoors. 40% say no. We thank you for voting. We want to hear from you. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part. I'll have an update on what you and your neighbors are saying on 25 News Now at 10. Firefighters worked to take out a large fire at the Texas State Penitentiary in Huntsville early Friday. KPRC reports the Huntsville Fire Department got reports of heavy smoke at the prison at around 2 a.m. When they arrived, flames were seen at the west building, affecting the west wing attic and parts of the third floor administration building. About 655 inmates were evacuated overnight. At this time, no injuries reported. 400 of those inmates transferred to other state facilities. A man accused of shooting and wounding 2 San Antonio police officers and injuring a third officer now facing a long list of criminal charges in connection with the incident. KSAT reports the suspect is 28-year-old Jesse Garcia Jr. Garcia taken into custody late Thursday night after an hours-long standoff with police at an apartment. Bail for Garcia set at about $4 million. The 2 officers who were shot are in stable condition. Work on the De Leon Plaza expansion project continues this weekend. Starting Sunday, Main Street will close between Goodwin Avenue and Constitution Street for 2 weeks for utility installation and traffic signal reconfiguration at the intersection of Main and Forest Streets. All businesses in the area will remain open and accessible. The Needville Little League All-Stars back in game mode this afternoon. Today was their last off day of the tournament. Needville will play Saturday for the U.S. Championship, and if they get past El Segundo, California, they would play the very next day in the World Championship game if they win. Now, at this stage of the tournament, it's important to be fully rested coming into the U.S. Championship.
They're absolutely in a great position. And you think about being able to rest your guys, not be able to overuse certain guys, and be able to have your best pitchers available going into some of the biggest games.
Scruggs is calling these games for ESPN. He believes Needville is the favorite on Saturday because they stayed in the winner's bracket throughout the tournament. Tomorrow afternoon's game against El Segundo, California, right here, KVU TV, 2:30. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell so when you're on YouTube, you can get Crossroads Today. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 6, the latest on a refinery fire near Baton Rouge. Also ahead, Ukrainian pilots heading to San Antonio for training on F-16 jets.
Here's a look at Community Crossroads this weekend. We first sit down with fashion designer Shayla Abigail, followed by Dr. Gary Butler, followed by Hope of South Texas, and of course we have a stunning performance by the Jerry James Band.
Late this afternoon, a Texas judge blocked the state's upcoming ban on so-called gender-affirming medical care for minors, the latest move in a legal fight over transgender rights. The ruling Friday temporarily blocks the September 1st start date of the ban. A group of families and doctors argued in a lawsuit that the law discriminates against transgender children and would devastate patients and families who are denied treatment. The Texas Attorney General's office has appealed. Residents within a mile of a fire at a refinery storage tank in Garyville, Louisiana, must temporarily evacuate. Marathon Petroleum says the fire is contained to the refinery's property about 40 miles west of New Orleans, and there have been no injuries. The United States announced it will start training Ukrainian pilots and maintenance personnel on F-16 jets in October. The Ukrainians will first undergo English language classes in September at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio. That's because the jet's instrumentation and manuals are all in English. They'll then learn to fly and maintain the jets at Morris Air National Guard Base in Tucson, Arizona. Ukraine believes the fighter jets are essential to countering Russian air superiority. West Nile virus continues to be the leading cause of viral disease spread by insects in the United States. A CDC report says in 2021, 49 states in the District of Columbia reported more than 3,000 cases of arboviral disease. Nearly all of those cases were West Nile virus. Close to 2,100 people with West Nile virus were hospitalized and 227 died. A high number of cases were reported in Texas that same year. A dangerous heat wave posing a threat for residents from the Midwest to the Gulf Coast. According to the National Weather Service, some areas could see triple-digit temperatures and heat index values up to 120 degrees.
Record-setting heat is coming down on parts of the nation, including Houston. Since June 1st, the most populous city in Texas is having its hottest summer to date. Houston is also experiencing a drought, and local officials are asking residents to voluntarily limit watering their lawns. But it will become mandatory this weekend.
It just doesn't seem as though right now we can get a break.
The rising mercury is also causing headaches for Louisiana's agriculture. State officials say the extreme temps are hurting crops, and consumers will eventually notice it at the grocery store.
Most of the foods that we consume, if you look at corn and beans and wheat, it's from the previous year crop. So what's happening today will be influencing the food prices as we move forward.
Earlier this week, record-setting or record-tying temperatures were confirmed in Baton Rouge, Mobile, and New Orleans. In the Memphis area, students in Tipton and Fayette counties are getting early dismissals because of the heat. So are students in Vandercook, Michigan.
Can't bring kids back into that environment. It's like being in an easy bake oven.
The National Weather Service says this heat wave poses a greater than usual health risk due to numerous days of excessive heat, the intensity of the heat, and a lack of overnight cooling. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
And the National Weather Service says the heat wave should continue into next week for parts of the southern plains to the Gulf Coast, and how it's definitely coming strong through this weekend.
The heat is very much alive here, Don. So is potential fog and storms brewing in the Gulf. And we'll talk football weather coming up in just a moment. All right, happy Football Friday and happy Dom Brubaker Day weekend. We got a front potentially Tuesday. The heat, that's right, it continues. We're going to keep an eye on the Gulf. We're going to look at some fog, and we're going to talk football weather. But let's get right into it. Here's what we got. 104 today. Yesterday, that was a heat record. Today, hey, it's shy of a record set back in 1924 of 106 degrees. Now, hey, it's Football Friday. Could the winds be a potential factor in the kicking game or even the passing game? These winds should start to calm a little bit, but we still could see 25-mile-per-hour gusts in portions of the crossroads. All right, excessive heat watches and warnings. We're backing off a little bit in the area, but we were filled in pretty much. You get a little bit to the north and the east and the west. Here we go. Again, another hot one here in the crossroads, and we're not the only place in America that's hot down here in South Texas. Look at all these, look at the expansion of watches and warnings all the way to portions of the southeast and even into the Midwest and all of Missouri. So yes, very much on the hot side and the stuffy side as well. Even though humidity levels, as the air shrinks overnight, yeah, you might get down to 50-55% humidity during the football game, so might be a little bit better, again, as we start to cool down. But right now, or let's go back a few moments ago, maybe 30, 40, 50 minutes ago, we were 111 here in Victoria, 112 in Cuero. So starting to cool a little bit. That's good news since we're getting ready to kick that ball off and everyone's in the crowd as well having to watch, be a little bit more comfortable. Now here's some of our fog. We got low-level moisture trapped in the atmosphere. Yeah, we could see some areas of some fog. I know it's the weekend, but hey, people drive on the weekend as well. You want to slow it down and be careful when these visibilities get taken down. All right, here's high pressure controlling our atmosphere, but the high is eventually going to start moving off, and when that happens, yeah, that boundary is going to make its way to South Texas. Now let me explain something here. The cooler air associated with this boundary now gets modified, moving into hot air, even hotter air than some spots of the crossroads. So by the time it makes it to us, I don't think it's going to cool us. It's going to be modified and warmer. But what it can do is meet up with the sea breeze and some Gulf moisture, create some lift. I'm stopping it here. But by Tuesday, maybe where my hand is, yeah, that little lift, that could trigger some showers. Let's go to our marine forecast. Here is what we have. So 93 degrees, seas 2 feet, bays on the smooth side. Okay, here is what's going on. We have a feature that is Invest 93L. Here we go off the coast of South America, headed into the Gulf probably overnight, and this is the projected path. Somewhere it's going to strike in Florida. Now, yeah, it's going to gain some momentum and strength. Could be a 1, could be a 2. We're going to keep an eye. It's still in its early stages, but for now, the likelihood of it hitting Texas on the slim side. Looks to be going towards Florida, so we'll pray for Florida, and we'll continue to monitor this feature when it continues to probably grow and develop when it hits the Gulf, because yes, there's some warm waters up there in the Gulf. But dun-dun-dun-dun, that's right, high school football, here's what we got. Mostly clear skies for game of the week. El Campo Ricebirds at the Cuero Gobblers. And what do we have? Rattler Stadium, I'll take that out. But winds, yeah, 25-mile-per-hour gusts. That could be a factor in the kicking and the passing game. We'll be in the 80s this evening. Overnight, drop down to 75. We can see a little fog during the morning hours. 101 tomorrow, early fog. Winds gusting away really quick. The 7-day here is what we got. We could see those rain chances climb up a little bit as that boundary starts to come down, maybe Monday and into Tuesday. For more weather, news, and sports, you can go to our app. That's at crossroadstoday.com. That is free on the Android and iPhone. And now we go to Dom Brubaker.
All right, Howie, thank you. Sports Director Gino Perez is running all over the place. Gino, does that mean it's the start of high school football season?
It sure does, and we've got a preview that you won't want to miss between Cuero and El Campo. That's coming up after the break. At a Crossroads, we are just hours away from the kickoff between the game of the week of the El Campo Ricebirds and the Cuero Gobblers. Sports reporter Zach Brown is live in Gobbler country with the latest. Zach?
Thanks, Gino. Every town in the Crossroads excited. Lots of games between local teams going on. And we could have chosen really anywhere to go to, but we chose to be here at Gobbler Stadium, where they will be welcoming a familiar face, and that is former head coach Travis Reeve, who is now the head coach of El Campo, but this time he will be on the visiting sideline. The Gobblers have a great chance to show everyone they are still that team that wants to compete for a state championship. Their defense gets a tough task tonight as El Campo has a 3-star Texas Tech commit running the show at quarterback and Oliver Miles. The Gobblers lost some key pieces on that defense, especially at linebacker with Sean Burks gone. They need some other guys to step up. Quarterback Mason Nataro for Cuero, entering his senior season not shy about his goals. He said last year winning a title pretty much runs in his family. He lost a heartbreaker last year in the state semis. The road to redemption begins now. What a game, what a storyline here in Cuero, a city that's desperate to get their team back on top. We'll have highlights from this game tonight at 10:20. Reporting live, Zach Brown, KVU TV 25 News Now Sports.
Thanks. The sports world is building as Friday is for football, and Victoria West will be out of town in San Antonio taking on the Davenport Wolves. Unlike East, the Warriors have its quarterback named, and his name is Camden Repper. West lost the first 3 games of the year last year, but turned it into a positive, making it 2 rounds deep into the playoffs. West head coach Courtney Boyce said he is excited about the offensive line this year and explained what it's going to take to win tonight.
Well, I think the continued pursuit of excellence, continue to, have great character, integrity, and then come out here and take every rep, make it matter. And, every chance you get, you may not get another one, so you got to make the most of it.
Last season, West fell to Davenport 33-26 in a tough 8-point loss, but will look to do better than that tonight. West and Taft will take on, will take on the Gridiron at 7:30. Well, back here in Victoria, East Titans are taking on Taft for their home opener. This will be former Victoria High School graduate Charlie Reeve, first game as a Titan and looking to get the team off to a hot start. East has yet to go public with its quarterback, but it will be between TCU baseball commit Kason Coley and senior Landon Partia. Whoever is under center tonight will have a tough time against the 6A school.
Feeling good. I'm excited to see our kids get out and compete. And I think, where we were last week in the scrimmage, you make your biggest jump from week 1 to week 2. And there's a lot of things that we were really close on. So I think we're going to be a lot further ahead than we were last week. We're facing a great opponent. Taft is a really good 6A team. And so it's going to be a big challenge for us. But I'm excited to see our kids play.
These Titans will look to start the Reeve era off with a big win tonight. I will be there to get highlights for the Crossroads Football Live show, so don't forget to tune in to see the biggest plays and scores from around the area. And also, we have a new CFL podcast that you won't want to miss out on, and that starts after the CFL show at 10, where Zach and I will give our input on football teams across the area. Well, that's your sports. Don, back to you.
All right, Gino, thanks, and best of luck to the Crossroads Football Live crew tonight and all season long. And we're back in a moment. 55 Black Marines, some of the first to enlist in the Marine Corps during World War II, received Congressional Gold Medals today. Black Marines were honored today with the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest civilian honor awarded by Congress. One of the surviving Marines, Alfonso Jones, was personally presented with the medal. Some 20,000 Black Marines served separate from white Marines from 1942 to 1949. It wasn't until after World War II, with an executive order by President Truman, that integrated our armed forces. Many of those Marines served in the Second World War and saw active combat. I don't know how many people know that for a while, even after World War II, there was segregation in our military. But of course now, for over 7 decades, they have been integrated, and those people, I tell you, really worked hard and, of course, fought in the World War II. And we honor all veterans.
I gotta say, just one word: hoorah to all the Marines out there. I'd be remiss because my brother and my dad were in the Marine Corps, so I gotta give them a shout out too.
Hoorah to all the Marines out there.
Semper Fi. All right. Now, is the weather tonight going to be something to cheer about?
I'd like to be on one of those Navy Marine boats out there, maybe out in the water and jumping in the water. Because it's going to be a hot one. We got Gino and you up here, former sports guy Don Brubaker and current Gino. So mostly clear skies at Cuero Stadium. Hey, those winds could play could be a factor. Maybe evening in the 80s. Yeah, we could see winds gusting away to maybe 25 miles per hour tonight. And then for tomorrow, 101 degrees. Looking ahead, yeah, that's right. The hot heat wave continues on, Don.
All right, Howie, thank you. Gino, best of luck tonight, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you tonight for 25 News Now at 10. Have a good one, everybody.